but plus find a better way to meet business concerns with immigration. We got to modernize that and find a compassionate way ahead for those who are here. So I think we can do that working together. My first question is for Mrs. Turner. We had a previous testimony here that said that regulations were the top concern for small businesses, but that's recently been superseded by healthcare and ACA and the impacts of the costs. Well, I think of also going around my district, I hear about healthcare, regulations, taxes, access to capital, and also having a hard time finding a workforce to fill spots. What would be the top one or two things we should be focusing on out of that list?
You know, I think so much of this is regionalized because what is affecting Middle America is different for other regions. Every single one of these is important. Every single one of these has to be addressed. If I were looking at my own company and in my narrow part of the world, it would be regulatory. It has a tremendous effect. But having spoken with small businesses throughout the country, there isn't one thing that I would say comes to the top of the list every single time. It's a gamut.
So we got a lot of work to do. That's what I'm hearing.
We certainly do.
Okay. Mrs. Chambers, could you expand a little bit on why it's so important for Congress to nullify the blacklisting rule by passing H.R. 37?
I don't know what the blacklisting rule is.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll come back to that then. Are there
Okay, I understand blacklisting contractors. WIP is happy for the repeal that was done.
Okay.
In blacklisting contractors.
Are there any other regulations we should go after with the Congressional Review Act? Or any other regulations we need to pull out?
No, I mean, my focus is on access to capital and representing women impacting public policy. So our issues are really around parity and
the access to capital, then, focus area.
As well as tax reform for small businesses.
And one last question to Mr. Paul. Your testimony about the premiums are compelling. Double the premiums, triple the deductibles.
Yeah.
Hard to afford that.
It is, and where we really see it, it hits home. We had my first son 5 years ago, or 5.5 years ago, and I remember our deductibles then, and we're pregnant with our third now. And our deductibles are much different, and our copays are much different this time around. And so you see it firsthand in the course of just a couple of years.
I just encountered a recent mom who had a $12,000 deductible. Her health care paid not a single penny for the delivery of her child, so it didn't work for her.
Yeah.
Could you expand a little bit about the impact of the overtime rule and how that's impacted your business? We're going to open that up to all four of you.
Absolutely, it's impacted us tremendously. We have a number of especially our management team are all salaried employees, and being in a somewhat seasonal business, Valentine's week, everybody's working every day, and we're working long hours. And one of the privileges that our staff that were salary based had enjoyed was being able to take some extra time off the next week or the next month and still get their full pay. So their cash flow at their level was consistent. We had to redesign our whole compensation package when those regulations came out. And so we still have, when I talk about uncertainty, that's it in a nutshell right there. We don't know where it's going to land.
Right. Mr. Boris, has the overtime rule impacted you?
Yes, so, what we did with the overtime rule is we had to be a little bit, thoughtful about how we were structuring salaries in the $35,000 to $40,000 range, because I do have people who earn in the $35,000 to $40,000 range, and our understanding of the overtime rule is that you can create a salary based on a work week larger than 40 hours, right? As long as you're not falling underneath minimum wage requirements, right? For us, we actually have higher minimum wage requirements personally in my company than we do in the state of Illinois or, sadly, at the federal level. I mean, we have an $11 an hour minimum wage as a company minimum wage. So I think that some of the conversation in the overtime rule can continue to be expanded. I think the intent of it is critical, though, that we look at when we're talking about either hourly wages or salaried wages, that what we're looking at is how do we continue to put upward pressure on wages so that we put upward pressure on more money circulating in the economy. So while I'm not necessarily adverse to having a deeper discussion on how we nuance the overtime rule, I think the idea behind it is important. And when we look at what's happened with salaried employees over a 30-year period, and we look at the lack of purchasing power, and then we look at organizations who deeply take advantage of people, right? A kid working at a gas station who's supposed to be 70 hours a week, and because we give him a key and tell him he can lock the door, so he satisfies the duties test, and he's getting paid $22,000 to work 70 hours a week, that doesn't help my local economy.
Well, my time's expired. I want to thank you all for your testimony, and I yield back.